Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hey, show starting. Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. John Cornett is here with a guest, and we'll be bringing them out with a song in just a minute. Howdy, gentlemen. Coming back again. We have Mr. Castor Leach, who's standing by right beside me as our joint host. We have a newscast for you. The first time we've done a newscast in a long time. We're going to integrate that back into our show, so we'll have a little newscast at the start of each show from this point forward. And we have a few show and tell items as well, so stay tuned as we bring on our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
Feel the force. We're going to jump over to John Cornett and Malachi. They're going to bring you a great tune. We'll be back with our hemp news segment in just a moment.
Hello, I'm Malachi Sterling. And this is John Cornett.
The other guy.
Right. Thank you, Malachi.
Is that it?
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool. We're going to go into our hemp news segment now. Our first story talks about a new poll finding that a majority of Americans support marijuana legalization. Legalization of marijuana and its taxation and regulation like alcohol. but most say they don't use it themselves, according to a new poll. According to the new Huffington Post YouGov survey, 51% of Americans say marijuana should be legalized and taxed like alcohol. 6% say cannabis should be legalized but not taxed and regulated. And just 33% of respondents said marijuana shouldn't be legalized at all, and 10% weren't sure. The percentage of Americans favoring the legalization of marijuana is somewhat higher than in some other polls, possibly because the question specified that cannabis could be legalized and taxed and regulated like alcohol, while most surveys just ask if it should be legal without qualifiers. But a recent Pew Research Center survey also found majority support for legalization. In the new Huffington Post YouGov poll, 70% of Democrats and 59% of independents, but only 37% of Republicans said they thought marijuana should be legalized either with or without taxes and regulation. Most respondents of either party said they think marijuana will eventually be legal in the United States. About 80% said that. 37% said they think legalization will happen nationally within the next decade, while another 37% said that it will be legal eventually, but not that soon. Only 11% said marijuana will never be legal. Those who said cannabis will be legal include 80% of Democrats, 72% of independents, and 69% of Republicans. 86% of the respondents said they never smoked marijuana. 10% say they used pot, including 3% who say they use it frequently, and 3% who use it occasionally, and 4% who say they use it rarely. Additional 3% said they preferred not to share how often, if ever, they use cannabis. Even among those who said they never used marijuana, 54% said it should be legal either with taxes and regulations at 48% or without. Only 6% of those people said they thought it should be legal. Obama's drug czar has condemned marijuana legalization. Surprise, surprise. Drug czar Gil Kurligowski really hates marijuana legalization. Kurligowski, President Obama's drug czar, spoke out this week against recently passed state laws in Colorado and Washington, which legalized the possession of limited amounts of marijuana by adults, 21 years and older. As director of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, or the ONDCP, Kurligowski said it required by law to oppose cannabis legalization. The drug czar said that the Obama administration doesn't plan on honoring the new state laws that allow adults in Colorado and Washington to legally use cannabis, reports RT.com. Last year, voters in both states, Colorado and Washington, passed separate laws allowing residents and visitors over 21 to legally have up to an ounce of marijuana. We here in Oregon rejected a broader marijuana legalization bill with 47% of the vote in favor and 53.1% against it. But despite those laws in Colorado and Washington, both of which overwhelmingly passed with about 55% of the vote, drug czar Kurligowski said the Obama administration will continue to enforce the Controlled Substances Act, under which marijuana is listed as a Schedule I narcotic along with heroin and PCP. Even methamphetamine and cocaine are considered safer under the federal law than cannabis, which those are both Schedule II. By definition safer than marijuana, according to federal law. Congress Kurligowski at the National Press Club luncheon said no state, no executive can nullify a statute that's been passed by Congress, end quote. I don't think that's exactly accurate, Czar Kurligowski. But Kurligowski went on, let's be clear, law enforcement's take an oath of office to uphold federal law, and they're going to continue to pursue drug trafficking and drug dealers. Neither a state nor executive branch can nullify a statute passed by Congress. Nor should we lose the sight of the fundamental fact that using marijuana has public health consequences, and the most responsible public policy is one that restricts its availability and discourages its use. End quote, Kurligowski said, and it was reported in the Huffington Post. He went on, regardless of any changes in state law, including the change that will go into effect that went into effect on December 6th in Washington state, growing, selling, and possessing any amount of marijuana remains illegal under federal law, said Ginny Durkin, a U.S. attorney for Western Washington, after legalization was passed with I-502 last November. Under current federal law, possessing any amount of cannabis can be fined $1,000 and sentenced to a year in federal prison. Repeat offenders face penalties of 3 years in prison and fines of up to $5,000. Here in Oregon, our Oregon Senate has passed a bill to allow post-traumatic stress sufferers to use medical marijuana. The Oregon Senate yesterday passed a bill that will allow people with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, to get a medical marijuana registration. The bill passed the Senate with a 19-11 vote and now goes to the Oregon House. People suffering from PTSD should have their access to medicine that can help their condition, according to supporters of the bill. Opponents claim there isn't clear research to prove that cannabis is an effective treatment for symptoms of the disorder. However, there's a wealth of anecdotal evidence from people who actually suffer from PTSD regarding the usefulness of cannabis in treating it. Veterans here in Oregon told lawmakers at an earlier hearing on the bill that marijuana helped them cope with physical and psychological trauma of war. Oregon patients with certain conditions such as chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, cancer, HIV or AIDS, and Alzheimer's qualify for medical marijuana when it's authorized by a doctor. So this would add that. So we want to urge all of our viewers out there, especially our Oregon viewers, to contact their House representatives in Salem and urge them to pass SB 281. You can do that online through the Oregon legislature site, or you can send a letter to your representatives in Salem. Now in the state of Illinois, the House there has approved medical marijuana legislation. The Illinois House of Representatives on Wednesday approved on a 61 to 57 vote legislation that will allow patients with serious illnesses such as cancer, multiple sclerosis, HIV or AIDS to obtain and use marijuana for medical purposes with their doctor's approval. This marks the first time the House in Illinois has approved such a measure. The bill will now be sent to the Senate, which approved a less restrictive version of the bill in 2009. According to Jessica Bauer, a 27-year-old Illinois resident with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, she said, quote, "I've been diagnosed with an aggressive and incurable cancer that will in all likelihood someday take my life. I would like to live out the rest of my days with dignity and enjoy what time I have left with my 5-year-old daughter. Medical marijuana allows me to do that," she said. She went on, "I shouldn't have to live in fear of arrest for using it or have to resort to the illicit market to obtain it," end quote. Illinois House Bill 1, sponsored by Representative Lou Lang, a Democrat from Skokie, Illinois, would allow Illinois residents with certain medical conditions to possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana, which they would be able to access from one of up to 60 dispensing centers regulated by the Illinois Department of Licensing and Professional Regulation. Marijuana would be grown by one of up to 22 cultivation centers, one per state police district, regulated by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. 18 states now allow, and the District of Columbia, now allow patients with qualifying conditions to use medical marijuana with recommendations from their physicians. Similar legislation had been introduced in Illinois and in 14 additional states this year, and it's anticipated in 3 additional states. According to there is a scientific consensus that marijuana is a safe treatment for nausea, pain, loss of appetite, and other symptoms of debilitating illnesses. It should be up to medical professionals, not law enforcement professionals, to decide whether medical marijuana is the right treatment for their patients. Next story is from Rhode Island. The first medical marijuana dispensary has opened in Rhode Island, and Providence, Rhode Island. The Thomas C. Slater Compassion Center opened its doors on Friday in Providence, Rhode Island, to what a spokesman said was a steady stream of patients, according to a report in the Associated Press. The dispensary got its license from the Illinois Department of Health earlier this month. The Slater Compassion Center is initially selling cannabis grown by patients participating in Rhode Island's medical marijuana program, but it will immediately begin growing its own medicine to sell. Finally, Rhode Islanders with serious illnesses who find relief from medical marijuana will be able to access it safely at a state-regulated nonprofit. Fortunately, they'll no longer have to put themselves at risk by purchasing it in an underground market. The Slater Compassion Center received its registration certificate from the Rhode Island Department of Health on April 4th, following years-long approval process conducted by department regulators and other state agencies. It's named after the late Rhode Island State Representative Thomas Slater, who sponsored legislation in Rhode Island's House of Representatives to allow the medical use of marijuana, as well as legislation to add compassion centers to the law. Senator Rhonda Perry of Rhode Island sponsored the companion bill in the Senate. Additional dispensaries are expected to open in Warwick and Portsmouth, Rhode Island, in the next few months. Rhode Island is the second New England state, following only Maine, to allow the sale of medicinal cannabis from state-regulated dispensaries. The Slater Center's website lists a variety of cannabis strains and supplies for sale. The dispensary is open 6 days a week. And Delaware also has recently restarted a dormant medical marijuana program. It's been almost 2 years since Delaware Governor Jack Markle signed legislation allowing state-regulated distribution of medical marijuana, and now state officials are finally ready to restart the now halted program. Governor Markle signed Senate Bill 17 on May 13, 2011, and said the decision was largely based on the guidance of the Ogden Memo, a 2009 statement from then Attorney General David Ogden, which said it was not a priority of the administration. Actually, Ogden was an assistant Attorney General. He said it was not a priority, though, of the Obama administration to prosecute patients and caregivers who are in clear and unambiguous compliance with state medical marijuana laws. The act doesn't allow patients to grow their own marijuana, but allows patients with certain qualifying conditions such as HIV, cancer, and multiple sclerosis to buy up to 6 ounces of cannabis from any of 3 proposed state-regulated compassion distribution centers or dispensaries. Patients who are at least 18 years old and caregivers for homebound patients can apply for a medical marijuana ID card, which grants them protection from arrest in the state of Delaware. But in June 2011, just after Governor Markle signed the bill into law, the federal government and the Department of Justice issued yet another memo, this one from new Deputy Attorney General James Cole to the U.S. Attorney General. It represented a change in federal policy on state-regulated medical marijuana facilities and said the feds may prosecute individuals who cultivate, sell, or distribute medical marijuana and those who knowingly facilitate such activities, regardless of state law. Governor Markle, concerned that state employees in the compassion centers would not be immune to federal prosecution, halted the licensing and processing for these 3 centers that were mandated by state law in Delaware. The centers should begin taking applications, though, and issue registration certificates by January, according to this new law. So things are moving forward, and that's the end of our hemp news segment for tonight. I'd like to welcome Casper Leach. Howdy, Casper.
Hi, happy Friday.
All right. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank
again.
you so much. I woke up feeling loved today.
Good.
It
Good.
was nice to know that.
Well, you know, it's almost 420. Tomorrow is a day that is recognized by many as a cannabis oriented.
But that's
a lot of people say every day at 420 is a time to consume cannabis.
That's not why I woke up feeling loved. I woke up realizing that our government cares enough about us to work on a bill that's going to keep our internet safe from information that might poison our minds or might be terrible for us to learn about. So that's nice to know. And I woke up to the home-to-home search for a bomber there in Washington, in Massachusetts. And so it tells me that our government cares enough for us to make certain that there are enough police all around the country to take care of everything we need.
All right. Well, we are glad that people who might perpetrate violence are not on the street. I'm not
That's
sure
true.
the reasoning behind that, but definitely it's a good thing to have the police concentrate on stopping violence, and we like to get them less involved in nonviolent marijuana users' use of cannabis and more involved in activities like they
And this excitement
did.
about making certain that what's on the internet and the government having more and more control over what's on the internet.
So what exactly was that? I didn't catch that one.
That was passed, and we're waiting for it to be signed. It's they're going to make certain that they don't. Or they're not.
So it was passed by the United States Congress.
It's passed by Congress.
By one or both houses, or do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
It's got one more to go through. I know
Okay,
that.
well,
It's
then
got
it's
one
passed
more to
on.
go through, and then the president gets to sign it.
Well, let me tell our viewers out there that if you have a question about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, or helping medical marijuana patients, and you can call us tonight, that number that's there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We also have a studio audience, and we invite the public to come in as studio audience members, and one of our studio audience members is here, and I'd like to make a brief, is it a statement or a question?
Oh, no, just ganja is God. That's the only.
Okay, so that's your belief.
That works for me.
Okay,
Yeah,
works for him.
It gives us all of our creature comforts.
Yeah.
It gives us oil, food.
There's a lot of people who believe it has spiritual significance. We'll be addressing that a little bit later. A lot of people think tomorrow, 420. Okay.
You'll see. You'll see.
Okay.
And
All right.
There's been times when I've been around those plants. I've said too, they have an aura, an energy that when I walk into a room and there's these big tall plants, you almost want to hug them because you almost feel as if they're a different creature than a plant.
Yeah, and tomorrow is actually in the city of Madison, Wisconsin. It's a good friend of mine. I think maybe you knew Ben Mazzell. Ben Mazzell organized with the Yippies going back to his teen years. He was on Nixon's list of enemies as a 17-year-old.
That's quite an honor.
He managed to make himself get onto Nixon's list of enemies back in the 60s when he was a mere 17 years old. He was an activist in Madison, Wisconsin for many years and one of the lead people behind the Great Midwest Marijuana Harvest Fest. And so he passed away about 2 years ago, I believe, and this is going to be the second Ben Mazzell Day in Madison, Wisconsin.
And what are we doing here in Portland, Oregon to celebrate our
there's a
international
bunch
holiday?
of different things going on. A lot of the local medical dispensaries are doing things. The biggest national event is in Denver, Colorado. High Times Magazine is organizing a large event in Denver, Colorado. All the different dispensaries here in town are going to be having some sort of event, and I've been invited to come to the Multnomah Wellness Club at 818 Southwest 1st, next to Yamhill tomorrow.
At
So I'll
420?
be speaking tomorrow at 420. That'll
420?
be at the Multnomah Wellness Club at 818 West 1st Avenue. Now, a fellow who used to be publisher of High Times Magazine, his name is Steve Hager. He has sent me these 7 candles that I promised him I would light at 420 tomorrow. And
He started making candles a few weeks ago, didn't he?
he just sent them to me this week.
Yeah, well,
he started recently offering them.
I saw it
and
on
so
the,
he's given
Facebook.
me instructions, and he says, if you're Jewish, you can put the Star of David there. If you're Christian, you can put a cross. If you're believe in Islam, you can put the crescent and star. So
I'm like our studio audience member. I'm going to put a ganja leaf on the front of them.
well, there are things out there. He's already put some things on them, and a ganja leaf is on the red base, the smallest candle, and he's got some instructions on how to use them. I'm not going to go into dates, and some gemstones associated with each candle as well, but they're supposed to be interdenominational, and so be lighting those tomorrow and going to the Multnomah Wellness Club at 818 Southwest 1st to do that. New medical marijuana patients, I believe, are invited to come to that as well.
Just curious, what are these?
Well, normally we do a little show and tell thing later on. These are a Chinese medicinal hemp product from, and they've sent them, and I'm not exactly sure what they are, but we'll be talking about them more in a moment. We have a phone call, though.
Do you take?
Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Yeah. Am I on?
You are on.
Okay. I heard that the feds were down in Salem going through the cards for some reason.
Yeah, that is in fact true. They apparently last year served a search warrant on the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program and obtained an unknown number of patient and grower records. Now, according to recent news reports, those were involving people who are currently being criminally prosecuted. So, there are some people who are rather large growers in southern Oregon. And I believe, though I'm not certain and don't have any evidence, that if that is in fact true, if they only subpoenaed patients who are involved in these current prosecutions, then that's the case. But, you know, I'm really not sure. But the feds have done that. You know, back in 2007, I was served a subpoena, a grand jury subpoena, to produce Oregon and Washington medical records. And I was told if I talked about it at the time, I could be charged with interfering in a federal prosecution. So, of course, the next day I had a press conference and announced that I'd received this subpoena and that I would be fighting the subpoena. And we filed a motion to quash the subpoena. We soon found out that the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program Office had also been served a subpoena. And at that time, in 2007, the Department of Health filed a motion to quash that subpoena as well. And in September of 2011, Judge Whaley, the chief judge for the Eastern District of Washington, where this subpoena had been filed, granted the motions by both my clinics, the THCF medical clinics, and the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program to quash those subpoenas. Now, I do not know if the health department took any such action with these recent subpoenas. I can't answer that question, but as more information becomes known, we'll be addressing that on this show.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your call. It's a good point. I meant to bring it up in last week's show. If you have a question or comment out there for us, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. And so I think the most interesting news to me of the week is the fact that the numbers continue to climb on the popularity of cannabis and cannabis legalization.
Especially there around D.C., where, you know, all of our lawmakers are just certain that they're correct, that the country wants to outlaw this, but then they go out their doors there at the halls of Congress, they're greeted by a populace that's looking upon them as silly for enforcing these outdated prohibition laws,
you know,
that is hurting our country.
You know, we had the story about Kurligowski saying that Attorney General Holder is going to be opposing the bills in Washington and Colorado. But they haven't done it so far. It's been 5 months since the election. So it remains to be seen what the federal government will do. I would think maybe Kurligowski, since he works in the Obama administration, has more of an inside track on that. Well, but I know Republicans came out today and urged Attorney General Holder to oppose these bills and to try to stop them, to protect sick people. We marijuana users, according to these Republicans, are sick.
And we're hurting.
We're sick. No, we're not hurting. We're sick.
Oh, okay.
We're not hurting.
Well, you know, Eric and I hung out over Christmas, and I think maybe he realized how silly he looks by coming out and constantly saying lies when we all know the truth.
We'll see. The time will tell. We've got a couple callers standing by, though. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Oh, or on the TV?
Yeah, you are on the TV.
Actually, know your voice is.
Your voice. I mean, I don't know if you're sitting on it or not, but your voice is coming through our show. Yes. Thank you for calling.
I qualify for a medical marijuana card, but it's a little spendy for me right at the moment.
I understand. It is quite expensive. The state raised those fees, and it can cost up to $250 just in state fees.
Yeah, well.
But how much does it cost to get a lawyer? If you don't have that card, they stop you.
Yeah, that's something that I've been playing with for about 50 years.
I understand.
I used to live in the great city of Arcata. I still have some good friends down there. But what I was thinking is when they get their act together over in the great state of Washington, would I be able to save myself some money just by driving across the state line?
You know, I believe you would be able to go buy cannabis at the stores in Washington, but when you bring it back to Oregon, then you would be subject to, if it was less than an ounce, then you would be subject to an infraction with a fine of minimum $500 and up to $1,000 for simple possession, and you lose your driver's license for a month if you're found guilty of simple possession. You know, the federal government demanded every state implement that 6-month driver's license suspension. And the state of Oregon took about 3 sessions to fully pass the laws that made that happen. And so we fought getting that added, but it was a mandate for federal highway dollars. So not only do you get subject to this infraction, which is like a traffic ticket, but you do have to go to court. You can't just pay it, and you lose your driver's license for 6 months.
So you'd be taking the bus or riding your 12-speed.
Or breaking the law.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
well, you
well-
might want to go ahead and just get your license.
Yeah, that probably is the best way to go. So, but I'm going to have to start saving my shekels. Thank you very
One of the reasons why
much.
Paul Stanford and his amazing team fought so long and hard to make that happen in the state, so that people who do need their medication can get it without being a criminal, and can do it in a way that is less costly than getting a lawyer and losing your license and dealing with a federal court.
Yeah, we should get the sick people off the field of battle in the war on drugs. That was
Yeah,
our
get the
point
sick
of
people
view.
off. Get the DEA members off. They're sick. And leave the medical marijuana patients
You know,
alone.
I'd like to
They're
see
healthy.
all of us become legal. I will keep working until cannabis is legal internationally. But thanks for, is that all you had to say right now?
Yes, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you guys are doing and all your people. You're doing a great job.
You're very welcome. Thanks, and good luck in shaving up the money. I know it's very expensive on top of
And I
living
saw you
every
wave
day.
back, so
All right.
thank you.
We have a question from an audience member. Go right ahead and talk into the microphone.
I just feel that he needs to take under consideration. I have a number of friends that are medically legal in Washington, and over there, the medical patients pay $150 an ounce for their pot.
Yeah, you don't have to get a state license in the state of
So
Washington.
you need
So
to
we
know
have
that, to
doctors who
consider
can
that
help
as
you
well.
get a Washington permit. You wouldn't be legal in Oregon. Oregon doesn't recognize that. There are 4 states that have reciprocity. Once you have a permit in Washington or in Oregon or any of the other states, there's reciprocity in Maine, Michigan, Arizona, Rhode Island, and quite ironically, in Washington, D.C. itself.
And aren't you supposed to receive your medical marijuana in the state of Oregon for free? I mean, you can't charge your caregiver. I mean, you can't give your caregiver any money.
There's no sales. You can give caregivers money, you can pay expenses, but you can't
You can do that.
compensate them for their time.
So that'd
That's
still
right.
be less costly than buying it by the ounce.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all depends. We have another phone call. Welcome to the show, caller. Oh, that one's gone. Well, we got another phone call, I think. I was told we had a couple on the line there.
Hello?
Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello.
Hello?
Howdy.
Is this me?
It's you.
Okay. I had a question about that CBD rich strain of the cannabis, the marijuana, and
Yeah.
I've
CBD
got-
being another compound that is really the main medicinal compound in cannabis. Most people think of marijuana, think of THC, which is what gets people high. And THC has some medicinal effects on nausea patients, for anxiety and depression, but it's really CBD that's the primary medicine for pain, neurological degeneration, gastrointestinal ailments. CBD has the widest medical efficacy. It also kind of blocks the high associated with THC in cannabis. They work kind of, though, as an entourage. There are other medicinal compounds in cannabis as well, and the terpenes, the compounds that give cannabis its smell and flavor, which are shared by other plants. Those terpenes, in conjunction with cannabinoids, have what's known as an entourage effect. But you had questions about the CBD-rich strains. Are you still there?
He must be hitting the bong. and
Or
enjoying one
somehow
of
we
those
dropped it off.
CBD-rich
But that's
strains.
okay, yeah. So there are a variety of CBD-rich strains out there, and some patients prefer those. There are a number of laboratories that test for those, so you can get the readouts at most dispensaries, get their cannabis tested, and more and more of them will. There's also another bill in Oregon's legislature to test cannabis. To regulate the sale of marijuana to medical patients, to allow dispensaries, which would be an exciting breakthrough. Right now, dispensaries are kind of operating in a gray zone. This new bill would regulate those like they were first regulated in the state of Colorado. So if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. And we're going to be having some film clips here shortly. And doing more. I got a number.
Maybe you should develop a brand new strain and name it after Eric Holder. That might change his mind.
No.
No?
That's not my.
You want to smoke some Eric Holder? See, how many people would say yes to that?
I would think a great deal.
Thank you.
This week on April 15th, which was tax day,
right?
That marked the 3rd anniversary of both of our former associate, Jack Hare.
Yes.
Jack had a major stroke 3.5 years ago at our Hempstock Festival right after he gave a speech. He gave his last speech. And he was in convalescent homes until he passed on April 15th of 2010. And according to Portland's municipal code, you have to wait 3 years till after someone passes before you can try to have a city park named after him. Well, since he gave his speech at our Hempstock Festival, we decided to try to rename Kelly Point Park right at the confluence of the Willamette River and the Columbia River as the Jack Hare Point Park. So we have a new initiative. If you're interested in finding out more, you can go to facebook.com/HERER Point Park. That's facebook.com/HERER Point Park. And you'll see our Facebook campaign. We'll be working to present petitions to the city and provide financial support to cover renaming Kelly Point Park and naming it Jack Hare Point Park.
Now, how long has it been Kelly
You have to
Point
wait
Park?
3.
And
Kelly was a fellow who...
Who is this guy, Kelly?
He was a fellow who was here when the Hudson Bay Company first established their fort in Oregon in about 1815. And he left Oregon, and the Hudson Bay Company actually kicked him out. But there's some controversy about the fellow. We're hoping, though, to rename it Hare Point Park after our friend Jack Hare. And we have a little video that we have produced in honor of Jack. It's my former co-host and person who sings songs on our show and performs at our Hempstock Festival, Tim Pate, wrote a song called Come Climb a Mountain with Me. And we produced a video using some old video that Casper had to
when I had
make
hair.
that a little better. Back when you had hair.
When I had
we don't
hair.
show, it's back when he had hair too.
Yeah.
So we'll show that video right now. Here's Tim Pate, and Come Climb the Mountain with Me. Okay.
This is Mr. Henry Ford in 1941 with Popular Mechanics magazine showing off his car made from hemp.
Well, come climb the mountain with me. Come see what we can see. Come climb the mountain with me, and then we will all be free. Some men are born to lead, some men have destiny. Some men plant the seed, and some men set it free.
Here we have 92,000 cars a day, thousands of people parking behind the FBI building, and they arrested us and they said, you cannot do this. I said, well, I'm not going to pay you a fine and go on probation. So I did 15 days in prison rather than give them a $5 fine.
Wow, that's kind of like telling Jesus you can't practice on Sunday.
It was a fine line. So come climb the mountain with me. Come see what we can see. Come climb the mountain with me, and then we will all be free.
Jack Hare and Ed Adair. Well, hi guys. They must be on the hemp tour. Are you on the hemp tour?
One man said we must hear One man's voice was clear, one man heard the call. His vision speaks for all.
The number one plant for paper, fiber, and fuel from the natural cycle had been outlawed, that somehow the synthetic cycle had won, when the number one thing in the natural cycle could outproduce it and completely clean up the atmosphere. So my partner, Captain Ed, who had become my partner in 1973 and doing the politics of this, said, we have to teach everybody in the world. So we went around and told everybody. Yeah. Well, it was a slow process.
So come open your eyes with me and come see what you can see. It's time for the world to know the emperor wears no clothes. Come open your eyes with me. It's time for you to see. It's time for the world to know the emperor wears no clothes. It's time for the world to know the emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes.
Okay, once again, that's Tim Pate's song, Come Climb the Mountain with Me, with some video that you had, some pictures that I took, some pictures when he gave his last speech at Kelly Point Park 3.5 years ago. And you can find out more about our efforts to rename Kelly Point Park, the site of our Hempstock Festival, on the second weekend in September. Rename it from Kelly Point Park to Herrer Point Park. And that's be found at facebook.com/HERER Point Park.
Well,
so we have a couple phone calls standing by. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm sorry.
Welcome to the show, caller.
Welcome to the show, caller.
Howdy.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, I couldn't quite hear you at first.
Paul.
Yes.
This is Steve. I talked to you last week.
Hey, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. I talked to you about Kaiser and them weaning me off of morphine, 100 milligrams a day to, well, this was the last week.
Yeah.
And
I know, and you couldn't get your Kaiser doctors to approve it, and they were trying to get you to choose between either pharmaceutical drugs or cannabis.
Well, they chose them. I went through a 2-year battle saying that it's inappropriate. Now I know you and I have a little bit different view on the subject, but that's okay. You know. Anyway, so like I'm wondering, I wonder what withdrawal symptoms are like.
Withdrawals of
morphine.
Oh gosh, I don't know, but I understand it's not good. But I've talked to some people who've used cannabis that said that that's allowed them some high potent cannabis oil that's allowed them to quit narcotics without the withdrawal symptoms.
Well, Paul, last week you told me that, and I took your suggestion. As a matter of fact, 3 months ago I just started dabbling in it, never did it before, just wondering about it, and then you mentioned that last week, and so the last whole month and a half I've been using concentrates. Oh. And then like a month ago they stopped, they weaned me from 100 down to 15 once a day of morphine. I haven't
That's
had
good. So you went from 100 milligrams of morphine to 15 a day.
Wife wonders what's the matter.
That's great.
I know.
Congratulations.
I got, I know the whole CBD thing. We talked like this before. I've told the doctors there I'd like to give them a class. But anyway, I want to tell you thanks.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to hear that good news.
Wonderfully. Like I said, my wife's a nurse, and she wonders when I'm going to have withdrawal symptoms.
But you haven't had to go through that.
Not so far. I went from 100 a month ago to 15 3 days ago.
Congratulations again. That's good news.
I don't really know what I'm supposed to feel like.
Well, I have this collection of antique medical marijuana bottles, and one new thing to this collection, but many of those bottles from Park Davis and Eli Lilly say specifically that they help habituates of opiates, chloroform, cocaine, and alcoholics with delirium tremens get off of all of those substances. So they knew it in medicine 100 years ago, but somehow it's been suppressed since then.
Yeah, asked my doctor why you guys didn't know about something that's been around for well over 2,000 years. Where you been? You know about morphine. You don't know about hemp.
Well, you know, they just aren't taught. There's a reason. It's all about money, power, and the continued centralization of economic and political control. It's about oil, energy, pharmaceuticals, who our friend, late great Gatewood Galbraith, called the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches.
And we
so
will be lost.
that's how he called them, and I like to carry that term on because he's passed and no longer here to say it.
I've heard with all kinds of pain. Even the morning after an election, fire one up, you're okay again.
I got one right here. See you later.
All right, it's your duty.
Bye now.
All right, I'm happy to hear that's helped you get off those opiates. Okay, we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes.
Howdy.
Well, I'm calling about the very same issue, but I would like to say that I believe there's an actual, I don't know if I want to put the word conspiracy going on in our country.
Oh, I'd use that conspiracy. There's a lot of conspiracies going on in our country. I mean, I truly believe that the CIA had President Kennedy killed for many reasons, one of which was that he was using marijuana and about to end the Vietnam War. And they didn't like that. But I believe in many of these conspiracies.
Well, to answer the gentleman's question, if he was going to have withdrawals, he certainly would have right away.
Right.
I am my doctor. I've gone to this one I'm going to now in conjunction with a pain management specialist who has prescribed morphine and oxycodone for me for 4 years and over 19-year use. Mm-hmm. And they give me drug tests all the time. It's either that, or if they find any cannabis, you can't get pain meds. So now in September, he all of a sudden in like one day came to me and said, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my license. I'm no longer going to prescribe pain medicine, and that there's a change in thinking. And so now they're taking all these people off of pain meds, but they're not giving anything for pain to help. And if I was to go out, and I've been going through withdrawals for months, you know, and now it's affecting my heart. I've had bleeds in my brain from the stress of it on my body.
Do you have a medical marijuana permit?
No, I don't.
Well, I recommend you get one and try that. I mean, it obviously worked for this last caller. We've had several people I know that it has helped. I think perhaps someone, when we have our last song, might talk about that. But it has helped many, many people get off of hard drugs. And you know, its use for doing just that goes back to prehistoric times.
Well, I've been wanting to do it for such a long time, but there's such a stigma in the medical community, and I'm really angry because yesterday when I was in the doctor's office, the lady across from me was saying how her father was dying. He had 2 weeks to live from cancer, and they hadn't even prescribed him any opiates. When I it's changed in my doctor's office in the last 5 months. They screen over the phone and say, if you're taking any opiates, you can't even make an appointment. So something's going on all of a sudden, and I've seen several shows about it, but I didn't know if you had heard anything.
Well, I know when we passed the doctor-assisted suicide or death with dignity law back 15 years ago, they loosened up on prescribing pharmaceutical painkillers. And so apparently there's some backtrack on that right now, and they're trying to regulate it more tightly. But traditionally, doctors have been looked at very carefully when aiding chronic pain patients. And so that...
Yeah, you know, they have not. The only thing that they tried on me was this Ambien. It's like a mind drug, and it made me feel like I was losing my mind after, tried it for a week. I mean, these are very serious psychotic drugs. You know, they're handing out antidepressants. I won't touch them because I tried them once and I started having suicidal thoughts, you know. And it's just, I want to go natural path. I'm so tired of the stress of not worrying, am I going to get my meds? I've had over 30 surgeries. I have cancer, you know, and it's like, and they're pulling my pain meds, you know. I mean, it's just because he's afraid he's going to lose his license. That's what he told me.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, some doctors get patients, you know, addicted to these things, and then they respond, and the patient's left in the lurch. And that's where cannabis is a useful alternative, but as you mentioned, there's a stigma associated with doctors and in our communities, you know, but you can keep it private. These medical marijuana permits are private. They're not subject to and if you don't want it in your medical file, you can see an outside clinic, and there are doctors who are willing to help you get that in a private manner where it's not in your main medical records.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to have to definitely do something because, I mean, I'm just really suffering right now. So, yeah,
I would recommend you try that. As this last caller mentioned, it helped him get off of, you know, the majority of the pharmaceutical painkillers that he had been prescribed.
Yeah, I just can't believe they don't do anything. I mean, they get these ideas, but then they don't want to be responsible for, like, the 4+ years he prescribed them to me, and they just decide overnight, you know, oh, okay, but, you know, they don't monitor you, they don't do anything to help you. You know, it's just crazy. Yeah. It really is. Well, I'm glad to see you on the air. I hadn't seen you for a while.
Yeah, we had some tape shows some weeks. They redid our studio, put some new lighting in. I don't know if you can notice the new lighting. It's a little more higher tech, and so LED lighting as opposed to incandescent. So
it was like several years ago, and I kind of got involved in it, you know, because I believe in it. I mean, I just do. But it's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If you're getting drug tested all the time. You know?
It is a hard one to deal with.
Yes, it is.
I think there'll be more pain alternatives out there in the near future. But thanks for your call.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for your work. Bye.
We are just about out of time. We got about 7 minutes left here. We've got one more caller, though. Let's take that caller. Hello, caller.
Hi, Paul.
Yes. Welcome to the show.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. My question is, how many plants does it take to make a 55-gallon barrel of oil?
That's a good question. You mean hemp seed oil, which is it doesn't have any THC in it. Well, you know, according to studies out of Notre Dame University and the University of Illinois at Urbana, study in 1975 by these fellows Haney and Cutchfield, an acre of hemp, feral wild hemp here in the United States produces about 8,000 pounds of hemp seed, and that's 30% oil by weight. So when it's pressed in a cold press manner, then that 8,000 pounds of seeds provides over 300 gallons of oil and a residual 6,000 pounds of high protein hemp seed meal. So per acre, you'd get about 6 barrels of oil and 6 tons of protein and 30 tons of hemp hurd fiber for building materials and paper, and 6 to 10 tons of hemp bast fiber for canvas, rope, lace, and linen. You get all of that from 1 acre.
I see. Are they pursuing or checking into that issue?
You know, Oregon's legislature has passed a bill that allows low THC hemp to be cultivated, and that low THC hemp is not as productive as the feral wild hemp in the United States. The low THC hemp has to be less than 0.3% THC, where the feral wild hemp in the United States is about 3 to 5% THC. So they have to use these dwarf species that have very little hemp, and they only produce 2 or 3 barrels of oil per acre.
I see. Okay. And when is the next, I don't want to keep on with my questions, but when's your next vote on the issue of legalizing pot there in Oregon?
You know, there's a bill in the legislature. It's House Bill 3371. We're trying to get that through the legislature. We want to urge you to contact your legislators and have them vote yes on House Bill 3371. If that doesn't get through the legislature, we'll be back on the ballot in November of 2014 with at least 1 and maybe 2 marijuana legalization initiatives.
Good. I hope it passes this time.
Thanks.
You know
well,
me.
Get some petitions and give us a hand. We haven't started the petition campaign yet, but we're debating the wording, talking to national experts and funders, and trying to put together a good coalition and a good bill that can garner widespread support.
I see. Yeah, you know me, so I'm from Iowa, and I just always listen to you and really enjoy your show. So.
All right. Well, thanks for watching out there in the flatlands of Iowa.
Oh yeah, you know me. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know or find out about the oil, and I'm glad I got through to you. So
I'm glad you did too. Thanks for calling.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay. So you want to give a pitch for your story? We're down to about 3.5 minutes.
And tomorrow, again, 4/20, happy holiday. It is nice to be able to enjoy the holidays with those people all around the world who are like-minded in the need to end the prohibition. Please tune in to AmericanFreedomRadio.com on Monday through Friday and check out Time for Hemp Live, 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. Go to iTunes. You can find all 4 of our podcasts free to download at the timeforhemp.com website. Lots of free videos. There's a news tracker you can download into your smartphone, and you can keep up with what's going on all around the world. And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's time for hemp.
All right. Thank you, Casper. We're down to just a minute left. If you are a loved one or looking for a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit, we have doctors all over the United States. We're about to open up in New England, too. You can call us at that toll-free number on your screen, 1-800-723-0188. It's 1-800-723-0188. If you're here in the Portland area, it's 503-235-4606. I want to thank you for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night. And here's Malachi with another great song. Thanks, Malachi.
Thank you very much.